My name is John Cassiello. I'm an MLIS student at Syracuse University. This is a video that will serve as my reflection for an independent study that I did tied to the Ridgefield Library Strategic Initiative, which is part of a much larger strategic plan. Specifically, it was for the phase where we are reaching out to the staff once again and asking them for specific action ideas and plans that we can implement in the future, and the voting on that and some scoring. So that was the project. I wrote a paper, which perhaps you've read. If you have, thank you for that. That paper specifically shows the research that I did as part of how I helped them with it, the recommendations that I made based on that research for how we can approach this phase, then a recap of the results of the practical work that we did, and then now this reflection. I will say that the proposed work did not get completed, which was, I said in my proposal, was certainly possible. In that case, I did still do the research for the later stages and my recommendations. I simply don't have the recap and the results because it didn't happen. That was a decision of the administration, and I respect that decision. As I said in my proposal, this was their project. By no means was I taking over the project or pretending to be the lead. I was simply assisting and observing and recommending. So, as I said, I respect their decision. I don't think it was necessarily because of poor management or poor planning. I think they, as good managers do, assessed the situation as it was and decided that the best course of action at this time is to pause. And I believe it is a pause and not a stop. I think because of things like holidays and other responsibilities, they just felt that in order to dedicate the appropriate attention and time, we should address it in the new year. So, I'll be honest, that was disappointing for me. I was very much looking forward to that second half where we would score across a matrix based on criteria that we feel is important and essentially come up with a prioritized list of actions. I hope that we still get to do that. I hope I get to be involved in that process. I've certainly given them my recommendations and a map to achieve that. Perhaps we will follow that. Perhaps we will reassess and come up with a new one. But yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to do it. But I hope we do, and I hope to be a part of it. Anyway, to recap, I chose this assignment, this project to base my study on because I felt that it really did reflect so much of what I've learned through many courses that I've taken at Syracuse. I've enjoyed every course so much. It's really spoken to me personally and professionally. It's shaped my philosophies. It's given me words to describe what my philosophies were before. And so this project allowed me to explore those deeper, to take sort of theoretical ideas that the courses had taught us about how to do certain things and apply it practically and see the effect of that and see how it works. And for me personally, to explore whether that's something I'm interested in, which I thought I was. I thought as of 2 years ago, I was heading towards psychology because I wanted to help people. I wanted to be in a profession where I could work with people and help them. And in those last 2 years, I've realized that you can do that in libraries. You can do that really well in libraries in a lot of different ways. And so based on what I've learned at Syracuse and specifically through this process, I've also learned that I specifically am interested in a management or administrative position within an organization. The idea of assessment and projects, project management, people management is really appealing to me, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching um, that happen at my organization, watching it happen, people doing it well, in some cases not doing it well, being able to talk to people in those positions. Um, Specifically, I want to thank Brenda McKinley, the director of the Ridgefield Library, Andy Forsyth, the assistant director, for allowing me into the room for these planning meetings, for the actual work meetings, for the conversations that we had, the discussions around the ideas, around staffing, around management, around libraries, around the future of our organization, the future of libraries in general. For all of that, I am very grateful. If nothing else, I gained that wisdom. I gained two more voices, two more people that I can turn to, mentors that I can ask questions of. So that in itself was very rewarding. Um, because I had spoken to Brenda maybe a year ago or so when I had sort of just started at Syracuse, and she asked me how it was going. She was very curious. And I told her about the sort of cognitive dissonance that I was experiencing because the theories and philosophies that we were being taught in class um, resonated with me. They were, I would have a lot of yes moments where I was like, that's, yes, that's what I believe in also. Like I said, it gave me words to describe the feelings I had previously. Everything from library philosophy even down to project management. The way that I had run some of the projects that I had done, while not to the intense level of the Project Management Institute, but definitely along those lines. And from a managing standpoint, I've never been in a real management position. I've been in positions that have allowed me to do some level of management, and I obviously was not perfect at them. I don't think, but the things that I brought to the table um, were then validated by what I was getting taught in class. But I wasn't always seeing it in the real world with my supervisors or other supervisors in managerial positions. And so I was honest with Brenda, and I said I was frustrated by um, that I was seeing and learning better ways to do things, and then coming to work and seeing in some cases the exact opposite being done. And so I recognized, and we had some conversations about the idea that sometimes there is an ideal, just like in life. There are morals, there are ideals, but then when you're actually in the situation, sometimes you have to do things differently. And I respected that, but I still felt like in those specific situations, maybe we still didn't have to do it the way we were doing it, that we could still apply these ideal library scenarios in better ways. But I never had the practical experience, so I couldn't really justify that. I was not in those situations. I did get to experience it a little bit in a previous class where we had to do some like on desk duty, and so I got to apply some of the ideas that I had about customer service, and I got to see the reality of those. But this assignment, this project, this independent study really allowed me to do that on such a grand scale, across so many different courses, so many different lessons that I had learned, so many skills that I had gained, that in that sense it was the most rewarding project and assignment that I've done. In many ways, it didn't feel like an assignment at all. It was not work. Um, it wasn't just a project for school. This was profound and meaningful to me, um, because I got to explore managing a little bit. I got to explore project management a lot. I got to apply things that I didn't think I would necessarily apply. The 662 Instructional Strategies course, which is definitely geared more towards school librarians, and even teachers, about creating um, class lessons and assignments, but seeing how you can apply that same mentality to something like a staff meeting, or even a small meeting like we had, just to talk about sorting the cards, or even the first meeting that we had, it was definitely structured around that kind of approach where you set goals, you set an agenda, um, you follow that agenda, you assign tasks to people. That sense of project management as well, where you keep an eye on the big picture, you work on the small picture. Everybody knows what they're doing, why they're doing it, what's dependent on what they're doing, and then holding each other accountable, staying on top of everything, um, having those milestones or those deadlines, and finding ways to meet them. Um, it was all exactly the way that it had been presented to me in class, but not what I had seen previously at my organization. And so it really gave me a lot of hope. It gave me some warm, squishy feelings inside, that it does work and you can do it and you can apply it, and it's just a matter of doing it, of having that philosophy, of believing in it and executing it. Um, so to recap the general process that we followed, like I said from the beginning, I got a great feeling from both Brenda and Andy that they felt similarly to the way I do about how you execute a project like this. We did, as I said, we set goals. We communicated constantly. We kept in touch with each other and shared what we were working on. Kept everybody on the same page. Held each other accountable. If I knew that something I was doing was tied to something that somebody else was doing, I made sure that they knew where I was in that process. Um, so that project management approach to things, which wasn't always utilized at my organization, and I think it showed. Again, getting the opportunity to practically apply that and see the results of it and see the benefits of it was in some ways life changing. I talked about in the report the fact that the next project that I did after this one, which was planning the escape room that we're doing in just a couple of weeks, I purposely took the same approach because I saw the value in it. I saw the meaning behind why you manage a project that way, that in that style, and I think it's benefited that project even more than it's benefited the strategic plan, because that sort of lends itself more to that. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people doing things, that are skill specific, that are task oriented, that are then related to something else that somebody else is doing. But I don't want to get off on a tangent about that project. So yeah, the project management side, what we learned in IST 645 about how to do that, I was able to apply a lot of that. I even used Microsoft Project. I'm encouraging our organization to perhaps get it so that we can teach it to other members of the staff, because it's great. I think, I don't always love that piece of software exactly, but that approach to things, which is achieved very well within that piece of software, I think is integral to any project. And overall project management, portfolio management, all of that, I think the organization would benefit greatly from it. I've tried some other free ones since then that unfortunately don't have things like dependencies and Gantt charts. So anyway, something to explore, but project management, amazing. On the management side, 614, uh, I learned a lot from that class, again, about myself, and I didn't get to manage so much in this process. I did get to work with the staff more than I maybe would have in my day-to-day operations, but it did give me the opportunity to watch people who I believe are great at managing, and great at leading, and to see the difference between those two things and to see it in action, and to be able to talk to them about that. Because I do feel like our organization, unfortunately, has some people in management positions who it's just not their strength. Um, so to have something to compare it to be able to talk to them about that, um, was, again, incredibly rewarding, incredibly validating to what I was learning in class, what I believe, and what I believe about myself. Management is definitely something I'm interested in, and so it's great to have mentors that um, that do it well, that listen, that guide, that believe in their staff and put them in positions to succeed, that support them, that let them succeed and then celebrate that success, that work with them through their non-successes, that help people to learn through their failures. Although I hesitate to call it a failure because if you learn from it, it's not. Um, and we saw that in play with this project as we were working on it. The things that didn't go well, we learned from, and that's a life lesson. That's one of those enduring understandings. To quote my instructional strategies course, that's something you take beyond just that project. The idea that you can learn more from your failures than you can from your successes. You just have to be honest and genuine with yourself and objective and recognize that it is a learning opportunity and then learn from it, make the changes. Um, and that sort of segues me into the 662 instructional strategies course. And also we learned about this in 612 youth services because there were a lot of lesson plans in that. The ADDIE model, which again, Brenda and Andy were very accepting of, and even if they didn't call it that, they certainly had that approach of first you analyze, you recognize what a problem is or what a situation is, and then you design a solution, and then you develop it, and then you implement it, you put it into action, you before doing that you establish what your criteria is for success, and it was important to do that before and not after. Too often we sort of we do that last step of evaluation, but we do it in hindsight. So we did a great job. Brenda and Andy really did a great job of establishing that ahead of time. These are our goals. This is how we'll know when we meet those goals. So then at the end, we were able to look back and say, well, did we meet that goal based on the criteria that we established beforehand? And again, to see that implemented, to see that used, validated that there's a reason why we do it. There's a reason why Syracuse teaches us that. It works and it's effective and it can be done. Too often people see these theories and they say, oh yeah, but you don't actually do it that way. You can't do it that way. No one has the time to do it that way. You do. If nothing else, that this project, watching these people do this, taught me you do have the time. You do have the ability. You just have to do it. And the reward is worth it. Managing the project, setting these goals, reaching those goals, recognizing that success. We did it and it worked, and it was a success in that regard. I was able to touch on some other courses that I had taken throughout this process. It really, it wasn't just the four or so that I originally thought it would be. There was definitely some aspect of, introduction to library, even some aspects of info policy. We got into some conversations about that. Like I said, I was able to sort of integrate information technology right at the end here by doing this as a video. So it really did serve as a culmination of my last 18 months. I was able to sort of summarize in 4 months worth of work, and that's what I found amazing about Syracuse and this program, because it really is a good summary of what you encounter in practical library experience. And I think it has prepared me extremely well, and taught me what it is that I want to do. Like I said, I went in thinking I wanted to help people in a career maybe in psychology. I started to recognize ways that I could do that in the library. And then I found out that I could because I learned about it, and then I applied it in a practical setting. I got to watch other people doing it, um, building an organization, recognizing through SWOT analysis or other forms of assessment. I got to feel the energy of that. It truly invigorates me. It motivates me. It keeps me interested. It's what I see as my future. And I think through this process, other people have recognized that as well, that this is not just an interest, but I definitely have a passion for it. And I hope that I showed that I have some skills in it as well. Um, to sort of summarize, this project for me was the perfect finish to my IST program. Like I said, it allowed me to explore things that I learned across pretty much every course. It validated my decisions to go down this road. It has given me a view into my future, I hope, at least what I want to pursue, which was great because I went into it with some doubt whether this was really the place for me. I've worked in libraries for over 20 years, and I've worked in a lot of different departments and done a lot of things. And there were times when I definitely got down that libraries were not for me because of things going on in my organization and people that I was working with. And going to Syracuse, learning what I was learning in all of these courses, opened my eyes that there is more out there, that there are ways we can adjust our thinking, change our philosophies, become the library that we need to be, and then experiencing this strategic process with the people that are involved in it, fortified in me that that is where we are headed, and it's what we will be able to accomplish. And it's what I want to accomplish. It's what I want to do. Whether it's with this organization or a different one, it's where I want to be, and it's what I want to do. And between this independent study and my time at Syracuse, I fully believe that that is where I'm headed, and that I am better equipped now than I was 4 months ago at the start of this project and 18 months ago at the beginning of this degree program. So, as I've said before, I'm grateful to Brenda and Andy and the Ridgefield Library for letting me do this independent study. I'm grateful to Syracuse University for allowing me to explore this. And I hope to have the opportunity to work with them and perhaps some of the other people that I've met along the way at Syracuse. I think libraries in general have a bright future because of the education that we are getting and the ways that we are then allowed to showcase that learning. So thank you again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading my paper. I hope that it did a good job of summarizing the process, and I hope this reflection has illustrated just how passionate I am about it, how rewarding it was as a process, and I hope you hear from me soon, and I hope I hear from you soon. So thank you very much. Again, Syracuse University, Ridgefield Library. Thank you all. This is John Cassiello, completing his MLIS at Syracuse University. Thank you.